Hello and welcome again to Forgotten Temples with myself, Mr. B, and you find me at Banteay, Samre. And it is quite the giant, isn't it? Have a look at it. This fantastic ancient doorway leads to another gateway, and in the back, just peeking up, we can see a shikra, and that is our destination. It truly is a marvellous temple with its own mystery and delights, and we get to go within its very heart. So please do join me and visit one of the great ancient wonders. Now this temple, like many, has a bit of a mixed pedigree because it went through so many transitions. It was initially conceived by Suryavarman II, it was then passed to his cousin, who in turn passed the reins over to Jayavarman VII. Now what happened here was they were all of different persuasions. So here we see not only a very strong Buddhist influence, but also the influence of those Hindu gods. And my goodness, together didn't they build an incredible temple? Because I'm going to have to do that walking away thing from you. You see, the problem with camera lenses is they stuff everything together. They never really show you the true size of anything because they're trying to gather all information in one image. It's only when I stand back here you get an idea as to the size of this thing. I mean, just look at it. It is so imposing, and there's a reason this thing looks like a medieval fort, because it's kind of supposed to. Well, it has to, because when your enemies are coming from far off lands trying to raid your treasures, and all around here would have been villages and huts, where would you go when you hear the call of the enemy coming over the brow of the hill? Well, you get yourself and your treasures behind these mighty walls. There is that mighty wall I was just a moment ago, and here is our doorway through. Now, there's really not an awful lot more I can tell you about this temple. There is some absolutely fantastic features. We can see it's in such a classic style. And of course it has played its part over the years in the history of the Angkor era. Through here we have something very interesting. It is a sarcophagus. You may be able to see it just through these doorways, as we have 1, 2, 3 and then 4. But if that isn't enough, there is a 5th and then a 6th before we reach the sarcophagus itself. Now, I can't actually tell you who was in here, but if I was going to place an educated guess, it would be a multitude of people. I mean, just think, if you're the head priest, where would you be laid? And it would be right here. And why wouldn't his successor and so on? It would be a bit like, I don't know, a cathedral in England where we have so many kings laid at our feet. As we move away, I spotted something else, and that is through here, yet more doorways. These temples are oh so compact, and it was to the left, just sitting here on this sill. Look at this chap, isn't he fine? Unfortunately, we have a bit missing here, but it doesn't take away from the appreciation of what he is, which is a Naga's head, one of those guardian snakes of mythology. And we can see, although, you know, he's been battered by monsoons and so on for nigh on 1,000 years, have a look at this detailing. It is still as crisp as it could ever be. We owe a debt of gratitude to a Frenchman for this temple in many ways, because it was a Mr. Maurice Glaze who in the 1930s and 1940s dedicated a large proportion of his life to giving this temple its splendor back. I mean, what you're seeing here is certainly not what he saw. Everything would have been separated by the tree roots that had grown rampant. There would be masonry down. It would just be a disaster zone. But it was him that pulled it together with the help of others and made this once mighty temple oh so grand again. And look, even now, there is still work going on. And it's down these steps we go, and they are terribly steep. One can only ever, you can see what's happening here, one has to walk sideways, which when you're high up is extremely dangerous. Now very quickly, let's show you where that snake head belongs. This is the best of them. You see up here, this is where he should be. He should be in this like peacock display of Naga's heads, but alas, he's on a windowsill there. But this temple is incredibly cramped. There's hardly any space from one building to the next. And it's in here we see the tragedy of every temple. But we do get an idea as to its former glory. We get an exceedingly strong idea indeed. Because as we come through into this wonderful ancient room that absolutely reeks of bats, we see this. Now this is going to take a little bit of interpretation, and you know what? We're exceedingly lucky. If you look on your lens, can you see that black line over to that side? That is the sun moving. We've come here at exactly the right type of day that the sun is streaming through this very narrow doorway which I have placed the camera in. Now, to interpret this, we must have a look. We've got these enormous blocks here that build what looks like a base, but is it? Was this left here from the reconstruction? Well, I would say it wasn't put in position by those that came to aid the temple. This is original, because why would you move such enormous blocks in such a pattern? I mean, just look at it. It is huge, which of course leads us to believe that the statue that once stood here was incredibly mighty. And because we've been blessed and we have the sunlight pouring directly towards us, we can get a very good idea as to what it might have looked like. An imposing ancient god just standing here illuminated as you came through at that particular time of day. But that doesn't answer the question, which is, why does it look so rough? Well, it's been looted. I would suggest all the dressings and all the facing stones, as well as the statue itself, have long gone under the arms of some scurrilous thief. Do you remember just a moment ago I was standing by that enormous wall that reminded us so of an ancient fort? Well, now I'm walking within them. And to me, these are the most sacred and special places in these ancient temples, because being in here, there's something deeply spiritual about it. Because it is only here that the elite would have been allowed, those very high priests and alike. And what they would have done is they would have stood exactly here, looking out of this window into the temple complex and looking at all those that had come. They'd come from far and wide, and they'd been looking for guidance, and they'd been looking to visit those ancient gods. And to be here is like to be caught in a freeze frame of time, a single moment in time, but back then to those ancient days. And it makes me smile every single time. It's an absolutely magical place. Now, I hope that you have very much enjoyed this quick trip around. And as always, I ask you to please like, subscribe and comment. And if by chance you could drop a few coins into the coffers to help me further down the road to build this library, it's patreon.com/temples, as always. Until next time, I wish you absolutely nothing but the very best. You take good care.